Musings with Saiko. Are the console wars over? Microsoft is being a butthead. They've been sending signals that they're exiting the console race. They're pushing their Xbox Play Anywhere messaging. The Xbox is no longer just a console, it's a way of life. It's like they want Xbox to be that warm feeling inside when you beat a hard boss. They want Xbox to be in all of us. They want the Xbox to be the friends we made along the way.
You guys, finally, my story has been told.
Well, to that I say,
bullshit, Mr. Handman.
the Xbox shouldn't be an idea. It shouldn't be a Play Anywhere ecosystem. It should be a console with exclusive games and awesome first-party titles. Microsoft should fight tooth and nail to become the king of the hill and knock Sony off their pedestal. Why? Because the console wars are fun. How do I know this? Well, I lived through the greatest console war of them all. Back in the 80s and early 90s, there was only one real name in video game systems, and that was Nintendo. They revived the dying industry after Atari drove it into the ground with poorly made games rushed to market, and they ruled with an iron fist. No one thought they could be challenged, let alone dethroned. But then a plucky little company arrived on the scene ready to take on the big red plumber. Sega! Sega's first console was not the Sega Genesis, it was the Master System. It was Sega's answer to the 8-bit Nintendo, and it kinda sucked. Well, it didn't suck, but it definitely wasn't much of a threat to Nintendo. However, refusing to give up and determined to make a dent in the market, they released the Sega Genesis. A 16-bit follow-up meant to leave Nintendo's 8-bit console in the dust. And it didn't. Sales were decent, but Nintendo's grip in the console market stayed firm, and even with 8 bits of more power, it wasn't enough. Sega knew they had a good system, but they needed better marketing. So to help them in this area, they recruited ex-Mattel CEO Tom Kalinske to steer the ship. During his tenure at Mattel, Tom helped revive the Barbie brand and launched Masters of the Universe. The hope was that he'd be able to bring some of that leadership magic to Sega, and he did. He composed a great team and, coupled with a blue hedgehog, launched a full-on assault on Nintendo. The console wars began. He targeted teens and young adults while Nintendo aimed at children. He made Sonic the cool mascot and positioned Mario for babies. It was glorious. Sega pushed commercials directly insulting Nintendo. Being a Sega kid meant you were cool. And growing up in the 90s, I was hooked. I was and still am a Sega fan true and true. The wars were great. Friends would debate why Sega was better than Nintendo or Mario better than Sonic. It was like cheering for your favorite sports team. You envied your friends when their console got a great game, but then proudly bragged when your system got a gem of its own. Those were fun times. When it seemed like the only players in the game would only ever be Nintendo and Sega, along came Sony and their PlayStation to take a big chunk of that console pie. With their now famous, at least famous to us nerds, 1995 E3 keynote, $299. Sony came in like a wrecking ball with the first console that could play fully 3D games at a price $100 cheaper than the nearest next-gen competitor, the Sega Saturn. This marked the beginning of the end for Sega's console run. They released one more glorious piece of hardware before taking a bow. It was a sad moment for us Sega fans. But before Sony could claim complete victory, a new competitor entered the fray.
A new warrior has entered the ring!
When Microsoft first arrived on scene, it wasn't with quite the splash of the PlayStation. Microsoft was only known for Windows, the boring operating system used for spreadsheets and Word documents.
You should see what this guy can do with a spreadsheet. It's insane. Oh, shucks.
Not many people had high hopes for the Xbox, but since Sony basically killed Sega's console run,
You killed my father.
and I wasn't about to jump onto the Nintendo bandwagon after years of being Team Sonic, I was happy to give the Xbox a shot. Especially since Microsoft introduced a feature that has now become standard for modern next-gen consoles, and that's a hard drive. Adding a hard drive to the console was a stroke of genius. They were able to market the feature as a way to save games without the need of a memory card, but the real use was that it allowed for quicker load times and larger levels because the hard drive had more storage space and faster read times than a DVD. It was truly innovative and I liked that technological push, so after the loss of Sega,
I promised myself I wouldn't cry.
I jumped on the Xbox bandwagon and the console wars were back on.
Game on! Game on!
For a few generations, Sony and Xbox were competing pretty well. I mean, I hate to admit it, but Sony technically won each generation in sales, but Microsoft was catching up. With the Xbox 360, Microsoft was really closing the gap and they were poised to potentially take the lead of the console race in the next generation. But then they released the Xbox One, or the Xbone as it quickly became known as. Instead of focusing on games, they decided to market the Xbox One as an all-in-one entertainment hub for the living room. Now this isn't a horrible idea as lots of people use their consoles to stream movies and watch shows, but the number one reason anyone wants a console is for the games, so they should have put gaming first. Secondly, each Xbox One was to come with a Kinect, a $100 peripheral that you couldn't not get. The Kinect is a motion-controlled device that tracks your movement and maps them to the game you're playing. It was an interesting add-on that could technically unlock some innovative gameplay, but by bundling it with every Xbox One, Microsoft increased the base price of the system by $100. And at the time it was competing with the PS4, which was priced at $399. So right from the get-go, the Xbox One, because of the Kinect, was $499. That was not smart. And if those blunders weren't enough, they decided to make the Xbone an online-only console, meaning you could not play any game if you didn't have an active internet connection. And when asked what a user should do if they didn't have access to an always-on internet, a Microsoft rep said this.
For people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity, it's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360, that's your message if you don't like it?
If you have zero access.
With all the negative press, Microsoft did reverse the decision to make the console always require an internet connection, and they even dropped the mandatory inclusion of the Kinect. But the damage was done. The Xbox One struggled to make sales, and the Xbox brand was forever damaged. Now you might be asking yourself, why am I only focusing on Sony and Microsoft? After all, Nintendo, the OG player, is still around, right? Well, after the GameCube, Nintendo decided to sidestep the console wars entirely and no longer focused on cutting-edge graphics or bleeding-edge tech. They introduced the Wii with motion controls and took the world by storm with Wii Sports. No longer having to play in the big leagues with top graphics, Nintendo was able to carve out their own piece of the console pie as sort of an add-on system to your home console needs. So in the console wars, you were either a Sony fan or a Microsoft fan, and maybe you also had a Wii. You know, to Wii bowl with your grandma. It was a smart move by Nintendo as they could sell systems without having to invest all that R&D money into the latest and greatest tech. They continued this pattern with the Switch, and we don't need to talk about the Wii U, and have remained successful to this day as the +1 system. As of right now, the real war is between Microsoft and Sony, because Nintendo is playing another game entirely. The current iteration of Microsoft consoles are the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. Despite having the worst console names ever, they're great pieces of hardware. I own an Xbox Series X and I like it. It has a great library of games, old and new, you can purchase via the online Xbox store. It also has the Game Pass subscription service, which gives you access to lots of games to play, including major first-party titles. But recently, Microsoft seems to be leaning more and more into the Game Pass service and talking more and more about the Xbox as a Play Anywhere ecosystem and not as a console. They've even started porting Xbox exclusive first-party titles to the PS5, and it's even rumored Microsoft might be porting its Halo series to the PS5 as well. Now, as far as I know, nothing has been confirmed, but if they keep on their current path, it's only a matter of time before they exit the console race entirely. Recently, Microsoft did announce that they're teaming up with AMD to build their next generation lineup of devices, but who knows if that means a full-on next-gen console or some peripherals or something else entirely. I still think the writing is on the wall, and it sucks. But before I end this video with doom and gloom, I do want to suggest one possible direction Microsoft could take, one last hope to bring the console wars back in full effect. Instead of tossing in the towel and changing Xbox into a subscription service and software brand, Microsoft should team up with the only company that was able to fight back from the abyss.
You will need a captain who knows those waters.
Recently, Microsoft has been on a buying spree of large video game developers, so why not throw one more into the mix and purchase, or at least partner with, Sega? Combine powers and release the Sega x Microsoft Dreambox. Bring Sega back in a big way, bring back exclusives. Launch with a new Sonic game that takes the good from Sonic Frontiers and elevates it to the next level. Give the game a fresh look by leveraging advanced cel shading techniques and making it appear as if you're playing through one big animated Sonic world. And include the new Sonic game with each purchase of the system. Bring bundled games back. Sega's already announced the development of Virtua Fighter 6, so this would be another perfect title to be exclusive to the Dreambox. Microsoft could even copy the format of the Capcom Cup and make a year-long worldwide Virtua Fighter 6 tournament to find the best fighter in the world. It could be called the Sega Fighters Cup, and each game in the tournament is a classic Sega fighting game, from Virtua Fighter, Fighting Vipers, heck, even Sonic Fighters and Virtua Fighter Kids, with of course the main event being Virtua Fighter 6. Also, Microsoft and Sega could revive a game that deserved so much more credit than it got when it first came out. A next-gen remaster of Panzer Dragoon Saga. They could even ask Tom Kalinske to be on the board of directors for the new initiative, because I'm sure he'd have some great ideas to bring the fight to Sony and push Microsoft and Sega back to the top, making it fun to be a console owner again. The console wars are good. It gives us something to root for, it gives us choice. In a world where we can basically satisfy all our wants with the push of a button, where entertainment is all around us, where everything is everywhere, I think it'd be nice to have to choose option A or option B. Choose one console and you get one set of games. Buy another and you get another. Nintendo has proven that strong first-party titles alone can make your console a must-have. Microsoft needs to stop spreading its seed like a bull in heat and go back to being exclusive and making hardware and games people want. If Microsoft tosses in the towel and just lets Sony win, the world will move one giant step closer to a homogeneous gaming landscape, where every game can be played anywhere, where we don't have to decide which direction to go because all directions lead to the same thing. That might sound good to some, but to me it sounds bland and boring.
I agree as well. Shallow and pedantic.
Life isn't precious because we get to do everything we want whenever we want. It's precious because we can't do it all, because we have to make choices, and those choices can open up some doors but close others. It's the opportunities we get and the ones we lose that shape the lives we live, and it's the sum of all those choices that make our lives our lives.